Welcome to the Train of Thought podcast. My name is Logan DeCamp, and I'm a certified personal trainer and nutrition coach.
And I'm Chloe DeCamp, and I'm a certified athletic trainer.
And we are sitting down here today because we want to help you learn and grow so you can continue to do without restriction as you age.
Be sure to listen till the end of the episode so that you can get information that you can apply to your life and follow us for more.
We're live. We're doing this thing. Yeah. You excited for a trip this weekend?
Yeah, if you get better.
Got 2 more days to get better. For those that are listening, I strained my back, so it's been an interesting 24 hours, but hoping, keeping my fingers crossed that it's no structural damage and it's just a muscle strain. So that's what we're going to hope for, at least.
Those do take some time to get better from, you know that, right?
Yeah. I'll just pretend it didn't happen. I just realized that
doesn't work.
Camera is like turned again. I don't know why it keeps on doing that.
What?
See how it's like...
Yeah. Go and fix it.
Yeah, I'll fix it real quick. I think that's a little bit better. We'll just roll with that. So, yeah, anywho, we'll see what this Saturday brings.
I don't know.
It should be a interesting experience. So, anywho, today is a rapid fire Q&A. These are just questions that's been asked by clients on our podcast and in our community. What you just heard, by the way, is a stutter. I do have a stutter, so thanks for your patience as I'm still learning how to talk. But we're going to go over 5 questions today. We had more, but we're probably going to spend quite a bit of time just looking at our notes here on these 5 questions asked. So we'll do another rapid fire Q&A again in the next few weeks. So if you ever have a question and you want us to answer it live on the show, please be sure to write in your question. So without further ado, should we get started?
Yes. I'll ask you the first question.
You're going to ask me, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So the first one is, why does creatine make my stomach hurt? And this is a question that I actually had before. So
yeah, a client asked me this, and I know that you brought that up too. And I had to do some research on this, and I'm going to look at my notes here. But the reason why a creatine can hurt some people's stomach comes down to 4 specific reasons. One is it didn't dissolve properly. You're taking it on a empty stomach. You have a sensitivity to a creatine itself, or the osmotic effect, which essentially is a creatine pulls water into the muscles, but if too much remains in the gut, it can draw water into the intestines, leading to things like diarrhea or bloating. Mm-hmm. So some ways to reduce stomach problems when taking a creatine is stick to 3 to 5 grams per day. There's no need for a loading phase. Most people. Yeah, well, unless you're a high performing athlete that needs to get your creatine storages maxed out. But for the general population, there's no need to do a creatine loading phase. And I know that on the creatine bottle it says to do a loading phase, but it's honestly a good way for the supplement company to make more money off of that as well too, because the general population doesn't need to do a loading phase. So sticking to 1 scoop a day is more than enough for the general population. Make sure it's dissolving in warm water or mixed in with the shake.
Yeah, it doesn't really dissolve well at all in cold water.
Yeah.
That's what I've learned.
Cold water, a creatine does not dissolve at all. So put it in like tea, coffee, something like that, and it will dissolve a lot easier.
Especially because most of the time it's unflavored. So I've done it in tea before, and I was like, this is going to make it taste weird because I always feel like unflavored still has a flavor. That's me. But even if you're just like, that's not my vibe, don't want that, room temperature water is like pretty good to dissolve it too. So it doesn't have to be super warm or anything.
And you could take it with food if you experience discomfort. Mm-hmm. Make sure you're using a micronized creatine, which it dissolves better and may reduce stomach issues. And drink plenty of water to prevent hydration related to cramps as well. So those are some reasons why it can cause problems with your stomach, but those are ways to help reduce the stomach problems as well too.
Definitely.
Do you want me to read the next question?
Yeah.
I have a tendonitis in one knee. It does well for a while, but then it flares up so bad to the point I have to back off all training volume on it. So is there any recommendations I can make to make it better so this doesn't continue to be a pattern where it gets better and then it gets bad, it gets better, and then it gets bad again?
Yep. So I'll speak specifically towards in the knee tendonitis, and honestly any kind of tendonitis essentially is just a condition where the tendon, which tendon connects muscle to bone, right? Any kind of condition where it gets inflamed. That's kind of the word tendonitis, right? Inflammation itself is just a response that the body has to injury, illness, and irritation. And so our immune system sees that, okay, this area is getting irritated and it's really annoyed from whatever you're doing in that one knee or what you're doing for your workout routine. And I'll speak to that a little bit more. And it floods the area with a bunch of cells that come in and, make that area, try to fix that problem, right? But by doing that, that creates more swelling, and you can notice that area has a lot more warmth, and it can be more painful. So inflammation is our body's natural response to injury. So in some cases that can be helpful, because if you have an injury, these good cells are coming here to try and clean everything up, rebuild, and get you back to normal. But the problem becomes when it becomes a chronic problem and it keeps reoccurring. And then on the same end, you're just like, how can I at all get back to my normal activities if this just keeps bugging? How am I supposed to keep going? I think you have to come back to the root cause of why this is happening. So there can be a lot of things. So in the case of a knee or a shoulder, we can get flare-ups of tendonitis from certain movements, like super deep knee bending, overhead pressing, any repetitive movements that put lots of pressure on those tendons. But those aren't necessarily saying that those are bad things to do. It's just that your body may not be prepared enough to do those. You may be lacking strength in certain muscle areas. So in terms of the knee, your quads might be weak, your hamstrings might be weak, your glutes might be weak, your ankles might have some limitations and range of motion. And so you have to look at the bigger picture of, okay, where can I start here to decrease the pain in this one area? So looking at a bigger picture there, looking at weakness, and when we do have weaknesses in the quads and stuff, that can really put a ton of load in that patellar tendon, which is what this would sound like it is. The tendonitis in the knee tends to be patellar tendonitis. It puts a ton of pressure on that tendon now because the quad's not working the way it needs to, and all of that load is just stressed right there in that area. And so how do we get out of that? So we can back off of what we're doing, back off the repetitive exercises, give your knee a break, try to get it to calm down, at least the inflammation itself. Things that can help with that as well are anti-inflammatory medications like ibuprofen, things like that, if you can take it. Excuse me. But when we try to get back into things, we're not going to go 0 to 100. We're not going to go straight back into those deep knee bending activities and repetitive loading, like running and stuff. We have to do some work on our muscles and see what we can do there. That includes isometrics. You had some notes on that. It can just increase that strength in a safer environment, right? Using banded exercises to really focus on, the strength that with all the muscles of the knee, and working on slow negatives on our exercises just to really focus on our strength. Some other things to look into is where your ankles are at. If you have some issues there and some limits there, if your hips aren't super strengthened and things like that. Those can all play a really big role in how you're going to move. Sometimes you just have weird alignment with your patella, like your kneecap can be kind of weirdly aligned and it's putting more pressure on that tendon. So those are things where you could go see a doctor, get a little bit more of an idea from a coach, a doctor, a physical therapist, athletic trainer, see what you want to do for if there's a different thing going on and it just isn't getting better. And so long term, those are kind of the things that you can do kind of in the short term, try to back off, try to work on some like isolated strength, and then get back to what you're doing and see if that makes a difference. But long term, you may need to look at some modifications. And, you know, long term can mean different things. This is more like months than weeks or so, because tendinopathy, tendonitis type of things just tend to take a long time to heal. But you may need to look at like doing more like half to quarter depth on squats and lunges, just because that takes off a lot of pressure on the knee. And just really focusing on building up that leg strength, because then that tendon will take a lot less load, and you'll get a better outcome from your workouts than you're doing, because now it's not hurting. So there's a lot that goes into that, and you can always get like a good assessment from your physical therapist, coach, ATC, things like that. But those are just kind of some basics.
Yeah, really good answer. And there's a lot to unpack there. Just want to do briefly here. One thing that stood out to me, of course, inflammation is going to play a role.
Well, that's what that is.
Yeah, it's inflammation, right? So being able to help regulate that inflammation. Weakness or imbalance. But one thing that really stood out too is a mobility issue. It sounds like if you're lacking ankle mobility, you're lacking mobility in the hip, things are shifting, just causing more pressure on the patella tendon, and then it's going to cause more tendonitis there, right? So that was just one thing that really stood out. When it comes to regulating inflammation as well too, a diet high in omega-3 monounsaturated fat, because that's a anti-inflammatory, something natural that I would think somebody could also do potentially to help kind of relieve
it's more
symptoms.
like the systemic side of inflammation in general too. But when we do have like this localized inflammation, it kind of gets a little bit trickier with taking supplements. And you know, I'm speaking towards like short-term use of anti-inflammatories in this case, like in the first few weeks, and you know, maybe even the first month to get you know, blood level up of that inflammation, just to get that to knock down and get it to calm down. And then you try to see, okay, what can I change in my general lifestyle to decrease inflammation to try and help with this. But yeah, that's a good point.
What are your thoughts on if somebody wanted to get a cortisone shot to help relieve that?
I would not do that in your knee, specifically for patellar tendonitis.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to get shots right into the tendon. That can actually weaken it. And that is a slippery thing. You have to be just really careful about, because there's more research coming out now about cortisone injections. They can decrease the inflammation and can definitely work really well. But if you're if you're having issues specifically in the tendon itself, injections into the tendon, whether that be knee, shoulder, things like that, that can actually weaken it over time.
Would you say that's across the board?
Especially when you get them over like several times. Maybe one doesn't necessarily say, okay, you're going to lead to a rupture, but you are putting yourself at a higher chance.
Would you say that's across the board? Like if you get a cortisone shot for tendonitis in the shoulder or the wrists, like is that going to weaken the tendon potentially?
Yeah, that's what research is saying.
Interesting.
That's, you know, obviously everything has a little bit of a balance to it, right? Because like if you just get one shot, it doesn't mean like, oh my gosh, you're going to be weaker and now it's going to rupture, right?
Right.
We do those all the time where I work. Like the doctor injects when he thinks that is a good chance, but that for that to help. But specifically speaking, like to those like patellar tendon and Achilles tendon, things like that can actually weaken it, and it's just not as good of a choice. I mean, there's other things like PRP injections, which I don't want to get into, but that's using your own platelet-rich plasma, injecting it into that area, and that's being shown to, show a lot more healing for tendons itself. And those can make a big difference. But once again, those are kind of tricky too, because they don't get covered by insurance and they're out-of-pocket costs and things like that. But cortisone specifically may not be the answer. If this is just like really not helping, it could be one of those things that you could try, but definitely talk to a doctor before you think about it. Get all the information you can. It's a quick fix type of thing. You might want to just think about that before you do it, because it feels great. And then what if this happens a few months down the road again, and you're like, oh, that shot worked perfect, so let me get another one. And then now you're getting another one, and you're going and getting these injections over and over, and then you're left with a not so great tendon that could rupture, and that's a nightmare. So
got it.
Be careful.
So
get your research, do your diligence there, but I would try everything else before you jump right into that.
Yeah, I mean,
in this case specifically, not speaking to injections all the time,
right?
But like specifically with
specific
the
for this, that makes sense. Interesting.
Tendonitis stuff.
Okay, did you want to ask the next question?
Yeah. When it comes to hydration, it obviously depends on specific activity, like explosive, endurance activity, etc. But should creatine also be stacked into an electrolyte mix along with L Glutamine?
Interesting question. So L glutamine is more of a gut health supplement. For example, some people with leaky gut or IBS that has a poor gut lining, L glutamine could be a great supplement to take, as it helps repair gut lining. P.S. If you don't know why a strong gut health lining is important, it basically acts as a gatekeeper. It lets beneficial nutrients get absorbed, and it keeps harmful ones out. Therefore, when it comes to L-glutamine for hydration, not so much, right? However, a creatine helps pull water into muscle cells, so it could be a great supplement to pair with your electrolytes if you're doing high-intensity training. So pretty short and straight to the point there, but moral of the story, you could do creatine with some electrolytes during your workout if you want, but at the end of the day, being the most consistent with it is what's going to be more important. So just some thoughts there.
Yeah.
Cool.
I forgot about L-glutamine. I should probably be taking that.
Yeah, it's a good one for the gut health lining especially.
Yeah, probably. I'll ask you the next one too. How does the body know where to lose fat, and why is it so hard to lose belly fat?
All right, there's a lot to unpack here. I have a lot of notes on this. So we're going to see. My goal is not to spend 20 minutes on this, okay? But the short answer here is the body doesn't choose what fat is going to go away in a targeted fashion. Rather, excuse me, thank you for your patience, but it happens systemically. Your body pulls stored fat from all over your body based on hormones, genetics, and overall energy balance. So to get more specific, if you want to get more specific, fat cells store energy in the form of triglycerides. When you're in a calorie deficit, stress hormones signal fat cells to break down triglycerides into free fatty acids and a glycerol, which are then used for energy. Now, where your body pulls those fatty acids from is influenced by genetics and words with H are hard, so thank you. But genetics and hormones like insulin, cortisol, estrogen, and testosterone. So let me unpack that for a second. Are you with me so far? Am I clear?
Mm-hmm.
Stumbling on a lot of words here, but essentially what's going on here is your genetics and hormones impact how your body chooses to lose fat. Now, for some people, it's more difficult sometimes to lose belly fat. Well, why is that? Well, I first want to state that our belly has vital organs we need to live. Some fat in the midsection is vital to protect those organs. And if we go back thousands of years, when food was scarce, fat in the midsection would be used as energy to help us stay alive. Mm-hmm. Evolutionary speaking, it makes sense why we need belly fat to keep us alive. However, excess belly fat in the form of visceral fat is some of the most dangerous types of excess belly fat, as it's been shown to be the precursor to diseases like diabetes, heart disease, and even cancer. Mm-hmm. So when it comes to excess belly fat, it is important that we explore some ways to do that. Now, of course, a simple one would be you are in a calorie surplus, you're eating more calories than it takes to maintain, which is going to cause excess body fat. But another reason why belly fat can often be stubborn and hard to lose is chronic stress, cortisol. Some studies have shown that a chronic stress has been shown to lead to more fat storage in the midsection. And some other reasons for belly fat include insulin resistance, so our body doesn't respond to our body doesn't respond to blood sugar that well anymore. Out of balance sex hormones, so low testosterone in men equals more belly fat, and estrogen fluctuations like during menopause can shift fat storage from your hips and thighs to belly in women. Now, like I mentioned, of course, if you're consuming too many calories, that's going to lead to gaining body fat. But a not so obvious reason that you might not be aware of is alcohol. When it comes to alcohol, it is empty calories, meaning there is no nutrient benefit that we get from the calories you're consuming. And it also adds up really quickly in calories. Some research I found this morning on alcohol includes the following. When you drink alcohol, your body prioritizes metabolizing alcohol because it sees it as a toxin. Mm-hmm. While it's busy breaking down alcohol, fat burning is paused, so carbohydrates and fat get stored more easily. Alcohol can also increase cortisol, which we talked about, causes fat storage in the midsection. It lowers T, which is it lowers testosterone, impairs your body's ability to regulate blood sugar, and disrupts sleep quality. All things, as you can imagine, which would make losing belly fat more difficult. So with all that being said, I would go back and make sure you're getting good quality sleep. You're in a calorie deficit. You have solid stress management practices in place. You're being able to eat your goal weight in protein. You're being able to do at least one to two strength training sessions a week, and doing 2 to 5 hours of aerobic activity weekly as well too, right? Mm-hmm. There's many different ways that we could go about this, but if you're struggling with stubborn belly fat and you're kind of in a plateau and wondering what to do, our free Facebook group called the Forever Fit Facebook group would be a great place for you to go. We have a lot of resources there for you. So that was a lot, but was that clear? I stumbled on some words there, but any questions about that?
You know a lot about that realm of things. I don't have much to touch on that, but if you have more questions, reach out to Logan because I don't.
Okay.
He knows more than me. But yeah, that was good.
Cool.
Well-rounded answer.
All right. I'll touch on the last one here then, because there's no notes, but this is just one that I know off the top of my head because I've been asked a million times.
Exactly. The question is, how do I know when I should lift more weight in the gym?
And it doesn't have to be in the gym specifically. It could be maybe at home. You have home gym equipment as well.
Just in general, how much weight should I be changing to lift up?
The first thing I want to address here is range of motion. If you're doing a squat and you can't get to 90 at least, we don't even need to be thinking about going up in weight first. Optimal range of motion is going to be really, really important, because if you can lower your squat by 3 inches and get even below 90, that's going to unlock novelty, and your body responds well to novelty by building muscle for that new adaptation. So same thing with chest press, overhead press, every single exercise in the gym. I would not worry about going up in weight until you can go through the proper range of motion efficiently with no pain and proper strength, stability, and control in that range of motion. So that's key number one. Mm-hmm. Now, the second thing I would take into consideration here is the rep ranges. So let's say your program is calling for 8 to 12 reps, and you're doing 12 reps of a certain exercise, and you are at the top of your rep scheme. So for example, let's say you're doing a dumbbell bench press and you did 12 reps for your second set, and that was a RPE of 8. And for those listening, you might be wondering, what in the world is RPE? Rate of perceived exertion is what that means, right? Mm-hmm. And it's a fancy way of saying, if I do an RPE 8, that means I could have done 2 more reps. So I do 12 reps and I get to the end of it and I'm thinking, oh, okay, that was pretty hard, but I could have probably done 2 with proper strength, range of motion, stability, and control. Are you following? Sure? Were you lost?
No, keep going.
You're not lost? Okay, good. So what that means is if you are doing RP 8 and you're doing that for 12 reps, then that's a good weight. But let's say that you did 12 reps and it was like an RPE 5. You could have done maybe 5 more reps with good strength, stability, control, and range of motion.
Well, so you're saying RPE is just basically how tired and how fatigued you feel in that. So you're rating that as a 5 or an 8 at that level of reps and weight.
Correct. It's always on a scale of 1 to 10.
Correct.
10 being maximum intensity.
Yeah.
And that's even if it's and that's even if it's 15 reps, 20 reps, 10 reps, 5 reps. It's always an RPE 1 to 10.
Yeah.
And you're gauging it on, at the end of that set, could you have done maybe 3 more, 5 more, right? And for those that maybe don't know, that's a skill set that takes time, but you learn as you go, and it's a really good way to gauge the amount of weight you should be lifting in the gym, because you should be, every set, you should be about 2 to 3 reps short of failure. Mm-hmm. So it should be like an RPE at least 7 or 8 consistently. And if you're not, then it's important you go up in weight. Or what you could do is, let's say your rep ranges was 8 to 12. First week, you do 8 reps on that exercise. Second week, you do 9. Third week, you do 10. And then the fourth week, you go up in weight and go back to 8 reps. And the reason why that works in that specific fashion is because each and every single week, you are allowing your body to adapt to a new adaptation. So then on that fourth week, when you go up in weight, you can go up in weight because each and every single week you are going up by 1 rep on that specific exercise.
Are you saying keeping the weight the same for those weeks following?
In that second example, yes. So that's a separate example. But for that second example, if somebody's stuck like in a strength plateau and they can't go up in weight, that's a great one to do. Yeah. So do the same exercise, do the same weight. Week 1 for 8, week 2, same weight, 9 reps, 1 more rep. Week 3, 10 reps, same weight. And then the 4th week, then go up. Or wait until the 5th week. But if you do that, you will be able to go up in weight. Now, it doesn't always have to be 8 to 12 reps. That's just a number I picked today, right? It could be a rep range of 3 to 5 or 12 to 20, right? But that's how I would go about increasing weight. First, range of motion. Second, RPE. Was it max intensity? Was it, I could have probably done 5 more reps? If that's the case, probably need to go up in weight. And then lastly, follow that principle, because keep in mind, exercises in a workout program should not be changing every single week. The best workout programs are the same exercise week after week for at least 4 to 6 weeks, because that's what studies have shown it takes for your body to adapt to a new demand. And that's the name of the game when it comes to building muscle and getting stronger.
Nice.
So
yeah, that makes sense.
Cool. Awesome. Well, if you have a question that you want us to go over on the show here, please feel free to write it in, and we will do that on the next rapid fire Q&A. But until next time, we will see you then. Bye.
Bye. Oh my gosh, yeah, that was fast. Are you okay?